Hey, Fidelity, how can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show. At this time, we're honored and privileged to have a good friend of Chairman Garcia, good friend of Eric Levine's, and a good friend of mine, Lee Zeldin, now the administrator for the United States Environmental Protection Agency, long-term congressman out on Long Island. In fact, my congressman, former state senator, great candidate for the governorship of the state of New York. Lee, welcome to Let the Record Show.
It's great to be with you guys.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Administrator, it's great to talk with you again, and you and your family, I hope, are doing well. Let me just say that not only is he a friend to all three of us, he's a friend to every New Yorker here. Let's not forget that it's because of Lee Zeldin, widely regarded, that the Republicans captured the House in 2022 and continue to keep that momentum going through the 24 elections. But Mr. Administrator, you're in a new role now, and I should really say, I was going to refer to you as Suffolk's favorite son, but you're really Long Island and New York's favorite son. In your new position as Administrator of the EPA, there's this new, I want to tack first to unleashing energy dominance, because the president aptly tapped you and Governor Burgum and the Energy Department to really come together to reverse the failures of the previous administration, the Biden administration, that really just handcuffed the ability for us to be energy independent again, as it was during the first Trump administration. And your role in the energy dominance committee is one that's really going to reduce inflation, spur our economy, and truly, from a national security point of view, allow us to be energy independent, not dependent on any of our allies completely, or definitely any of our enemies for energy.
President Trump's leadership started the National Energy Dominance Council shortly after President Trump was inaugurated this year. And as you pointed out, working with Secretary Burgum and Secretary Wright and some other agencies that have equities with these important issues, we're all working together collaboratively. Instead of agencies siloed, just focusing on their own work, not finding efficiencies, not communicating well, this approach is so much more effective. Last week, I was in Alaska all week with Secretaries Burgum and Wright, where there is an incredible opportunity to unleash energy dominance and prosperity for Alaska and this country. There are many other countries that were there represented. They're interested in helping to access these sources of energy out of Alaska. There's a desire to build a many 100-mile-long natural gas pipeline. There currently is a many hundreds of mile-long pipeline for oil. Alaska is looking for it. They're hungry for it, and the opportunities are abundant. In the Northeast, many years ago, there was a push by Williams to build the Constitution Pipeline and Nessie Pipeline to transmit natural gas. New York stopped it. Well, now there's a hunger to be able to bring that back. Whether we're talking pipelines, we're talking about the coal industry, natural gas, rare earth material, domestic manufacturing, there is so much opportunity here. And for anyone who cares about the environment, it's important to point out that we tap into our resources better than so many other countries do. If you care about national security, you care about the economy, we have to unleash American energy dominance. So I'm loving the path that we're on. The House passed the One Big Beautiful Bill that has many components of it that help with this effort. The bill's now in the Senate. We need to get this bill over the finish line, and Americans will benefit from more affordable energy, more access to U.S. energy. We'll see the Strategic Petroleum Reserve refilled. The opportunities are limitless if we're smart about being aggressive with urgency to tap into what are our resources that so many Americans have been trying for so long to be able to take advantage of.
Eric.
So, Lee, thank you for joining us. So one of the things we always hear about as Republicans is the deep state. I'm just curious, when you took over the EPA, how cooperative you found the staff, how competent you found the staff, their willingness to carry out the president's and your mandates and instructions, whether or not you met resistance. What would you tell the American people about the staff at the EPA?
Largely, the staff at the EPA is filled with many people who understand that elections sometimes don't go your way. The candidate that you voted for may not win. There are people who work at the EPA who voted for President Trump. It's possible that most didn't. But most of the employees at EPA understand that that's what happens. If you want to spend 20, 30, 40 years at an agency like EPA, if you want to make a career here working for the federal government, sometimes it's going to happen. And they get it. They've been implementing the president's agenda, and we have already launched what would add up to, when we're all said and done, the largest deregulatory action in the history of the country. More deregulation in one agency in 1 year than entire federal governments have done across all agencies across entire presidencies. Now, there's exceptions. There are people who want to undercut the agenda, and we deal with it. We have to deal with it, and we do it quickly whenever it emerges. So it's not universally a situation where we come in and every single person gets it and is hungry to implement the mission. We have people who make themselves the exception, and we're happy to deal with it.
Well, so I would ask you, when you say the mission, two questions. How would you define the mission? And secondly, obviously one of the charges from the president is to be fiscally responsible, help our budget. So what would you define as our mission, and how are you doing it in a way to help to trim the budget in a fiscally responsible way?
The core mission at EPA is protecting human health and the environment. At the Trump EPA, we have 5 pillars that President Trump campaigned on last year, that the American public voted for, that the American public demands. We're powering the great American comeback. Pillar 1, clean air, land, and water for all Americans. 2, unleash energy dominance. 3, advancing cooperative federalism and permitting reform. Pillar 4, making America the AI capital of the world. And Pillar 5, bringing back and protecting American auto jobs. Why are we pursuing all 5 pillars? Because the American public is demanding it. We will not ever lose sight on what happened last November, that voice of the American people, and how important these issues are to them. We choose at the Trump EPA protecting the environment and growing the economy. There was this false binary choice being presented at the Biden EPA, at the Obama EPA before that, where we would have to pick and choose one or the other. You cannot protect the environment and grow the economy was their mentality, and it was the wrong one. And by choosing both, that allows us to deliver on the Trump mandate that the American public voted for.
Well, Lee, I'll tell you what troubles me. And, for example, and you know this, having been a state legislator, a state senator, and member of Congress and gubernatorial candidate. You have this legislation that comes out of Albany and in New York City, out of the New York City Council, which embraces, in essence, a secular religion of Green New Dealism. And what they say is you have to have these mandates that everything has to be electrified by a certain time. And yet the infrastructure is not there to do it. The fact is that the costs will be overwhelmingly. You have New York people fleeing New York because it's unaffordable. And people are going to be cold in the winter and hot in the summer because the grid will not sustain this. When your view and that of Governor Burkham, now Secretary Burkham and Secretary Wright, is that you have to have diverse energy sources and not an obsession with wind and solar. So how do you combat this obsession of the secular religion?
Well, as you're pointing out in highlighting one of the bluest ideological states being run in Albany, with New York pursuing all sorts of policies that have really suffocated our economy and have restricted all sorts of amazing opportunities that would have helped the state prosper. You look across the map at purple states and red states, and you see a very wide range of philosophies of how to approach this topic that you bring up. So in New York, they've banned the gas hookups on new construction, started in the city. Now it's statewide. They won't allow the safe extraction of natural gas. They're not approving new pipelines. As you pointed out, they have these years ahead, these climate goals that are unobtainable. It's known to be unobtainable. And the only way to try to hit these goals, which will not be met, is to cause extreme economic pain for the people who can least afford it. And they're trying to ban the sale of gas-powered vehicles. And we're just starting to scratch the surface of what is the New York energy policy with this one-party rule up in Albany. And it's wrong. And it's very much in contrast to what a lot of New Yorkers want. And it's in contrast to what most of America wants. When we talk about advancing cooperative federalism here, we are looking to partner with states. We want to figure out how to help states unleash energy dominance. We want to be able to help states deliver clean air, land, and water for their residents. We don't subscribe to that idea that we have to strangulate the economy. And right now, New York finds itself in this race to the bottom with California, with the one-party Democrat rule enacting policies that have these two states leading the country in outmigration. And the reason why they're leaving is related to economic opportunities elsewhere, people feeling like their money will go further somewhere else, people feeling safer elsewhere, and people feeling like there'll be more freedom if they're living life in some other part of the country. And that's why these two states continue to battle for what is a leadership role that neither should strive for, the state that is number one in outmigration. The reason is obvious, but unfortunately there are a lot of people who are in power who want to ignore the amount of people leaving and the reasons why they're leaving, and they lack the motivation to do something about it because ultimately at the end of the day what they care about is just staying in power and whatever means to that end of retaining their title, their perks, their benefits. They are all for doing whatever they need to just stay there. Well, I would argue that the best way to lead a state like New York is to understand that this moment calls for instead of looking backwards at the policies that have failed of the last couple of decades, is to start realizing that people are leaving, and it's not too late to turn things around in a state like New York. And it's not too late to turn things around. And I'll say President Trump, as a former New Yorker, myself as a New Yorker, Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce, who's a New Yorker, and others in this administration who care about the future of New York, we stand ready on a moment's notice as soon as New York says they want to partner with us to be able to do good things, great things to turn things around. There will be no better friend than President Trump in this administration. We stand ready, but unfortunately it seems like New York continues to insist on heading in the wrong direction with the folks up in Albany.
Jesse.
Lee, before I piggyback on Eric's question, I wanted to just jump on that one issue. We saw that there seems to be in the state of New York, either, I guess, from demand or just outright we need the power, that the state of New York is now looking to maybe at least review the permits of the Constitution Pipeline. Is that a step in the right direction?
That would be brilliant for New York to look at what is a moment where a company is willing to build a pipeline that is going to transport natural gas through the state. New England is desperate for access to natural gas. New England needs Constitution Pipeline. And I remember sitting in a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing, and John Kerry, he'd just become the climate czar. President Biden was just sworn in as president, and a colleague on the Republican side of the aisle posed a question. It was a multiple choice question to John Kerry of what the safest way was to transport energy, and he mentioned pipelines and trucks and trains, gave him a whole bunch of different options without missing a beat. John Kerry, the climate czar, says pipeline. Now, if we all are willing to accept just how smart it is to have more pipelines in this country, then why are we playing along with activist groups that fundraise to stop these projects? Like their existence is based off of their ability to prevent this progress. It's the same people, by the way, who will set fire to electric vehicles. Now, we all know the irony. We scratch our head. Well, that doesn't sound like that's very safe. The people who want to stop pipelines, well, how are you going to transport this energy if you won't allow a pipeline? And also ignoring the fact that emissions are down over the last 20 years, that innovation is up, that we have been able to pursue so much advancements in the sector. This is in the best interest of the United States for national security reasons, for the environment, as I mentioned earlier, for economic benefits, and so much more. So if New York says they are all in without hesitation, that is something that very enthusiastically I stand ready to assist to do my part at EPA.
Eric.
Now, I'm sorry, let me just jump. My question to follow up on Eric's. When you first got to the EPA after your confirmation, you released this review of its funding, and you found initially about $20 billion in wasteful spending, a lot going to politically motivated or involved NGOs or non-government organizations. One of them headed up by Stacey Abrams, a political operative, a Democrat political operative who was run for the first person that truly did not accept the results of an election when she ran for governor and lost, and many more. How is your review going from that point forward to find more waste, fraud, and abuse?
I have now canceled over $22 billion worth of grants at EPA. Our annual operating budget is around $10 billion. In my first 100 days as administrator, I've canceled over twice the size of our annual operating budget. And we have a zero tolerance policy at EPA against any waste and abuse. And we owe it to the American taxpayer to put ourselves in a position that we can answer for the money that comes through EPA, that we ensure that we have proper oversight, that we don't send out money based off of self-dealing and conflicts of interest and sending money to unqualified recipients. And as you pointed out, there was this Stacey Abrams-linked NGO that received $2 billion. They only received $100 in 2023, and then they got $2 billion in 2024. Their grant agreement gave them 90 days to complete a training called How to Develop a Budget. The Biden EPA, when awarding the grant, they decided that this NGO had all sorts of different questionable aspects, yet they still received the money. They didn't exist. They didn't make any money. Then all of a sudden they had a CEO making over $800,000, a COO making $450,000, 22 people making over $150,000, and it was all a pass-through entity. It's not even like they were delivering direct remediation of environmental concerns. And in some cases, the money's going through, in many cases, the money's going through additional pass-through entities and then going through further pass-through entities. And there was $20 billion in the second half of 2024 parked at an outside bank to give to 8 prime recipients. EPA was a party to those account control agreements, but they were all pass-throughs. And once the money goes out of those prime recipients, EPA is not a party to the account control agreements with the subrecipients. This whole thing, you might say, oh gosh, this was reckless, or this was ignorant or naive. They didn't know what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. This whole thing was by design. They got caught. We came in. We've stopped it, and we're proud of it. And this is what we promised to the American people. It's what President Trump campaigned on, and we're going to continue to work hard to implement the zero-tolerance policy for any waste and abuse.
Eric, we only have but a couple of minutes for the last question, then a sign-off with EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin.
So one of the things you referenced before was saving the auto industry. And obviously that's critically important. The auto industry has been a backbone of American economy for years. Could you tell our listeners exactly what it means that the what the EPA is doing, exactly what it means to be saving the auto industry. I don't think people really understand the connection.
I'll give you a great example. Just this week, President Trump signed 3 Congressional Review Act bills that just passed through Congress that reversed the Biden EPA waivers given to the state of California that California used to create its electric vehicle mandate. California wants to move to 100% electric vehicles. Most of California doesn't even want to drive, doesn't want to own an electric vehicle, but California did it anyway. And a whole bunch of other states have been following California. And it creates a big issue that you have manufacturers having to deal with multiple rules all across the entire country rather than having one framework to operate off of. As a result of these policies, we are going to be able to bring down the costs of vehicles. We'll make it easier for manufacturers to do business in the U.S. There's a lot going on to increase investment of these car manufacturers, these vehicle manufacturers here in the United States. This is something that was a very important next step. President Trump enthusiastically signed all 3 resolutions. I was there on Thursday along with other members of the cabinet, Speaker Johnson, leadership in the House and the Senate, who all worked very hard to be able to get this done. So the Biden EPA waivers to California are now dead, thanks to our efforts working with Congress and, of course, working with President Trump.
So, Lee Zeldin, our good friend, EPA administrator, former member of Congress from New York, a man of great intellectual capacity, great personal courage, a man who's leading us into the future and protecting and defending America. On behalf of Chairman Garcia, Eric Levine, and myself, we want to thank you for being here on Let the Record Show. Keep up the good work. It's absolutely essential. We have energy independence, and you're the one to lead this charge along with Secretary Burgum and Secretary Wright. Thank you very much for everything you do.
Yeah, thank you all. It was great to be with you, and I look forward to talking again soon.